breaking news for your home. Wayday! Wayfair's big sale is almost here, and you can score the best deals in home. Like up to 80% off everything home. Yes, you heard that right. 80% off with free shipping on everything. Plus surprise flash deals all Wayday long. We're talking outdoor furniture and essentials, rugs, and more. All at Wayfair, and all up to 80% off during Wayday. Shop Wayfair's Wayday from April 25th through 27th.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, S-H-O-W, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, text Eric to 33777. Bring you up to speed on all the latest. You can get the show notes, the live stream, everything else. I want you to know, by the way, that we will get to the Southern Poverty Law Center story. It is a huge story being grossly misreported by much of the press that relied on the Southern Poverty Law Center. But I actually think the bigger story here is the Virginia redistricting, and I want to start there. This morning, I wrote the Republican National Committee spent $0 in Virginia on the redistricting fight, and a lot of other people have said the same thing. A person who works at the RNC, familiar with the matter, sent me a note this morning and said this isn't actually true. We spent money, but we did it through outside entities instead of directly in our name. That shows a level of self-awareness because, as I also wrote this morning, that had the RNC gone in under his name, it would have radicalized more people to turn out to vote, more likely than not. So they did fund the effort, contrary to what many of us believed, through third-party groups, and barely lost the fight, but lost. I don't care whether I hurt your feelings or not, but this is true. And I saw someone this morning deny the truth of it and say this isn't true. The Democrats started this fight. And no, the Republicans, the Trump team specifically, the political team of the White House, decided to do mid-decade redistricting. The spin from the Republicans is that they decided to do this 2025, 2026 redistricting fight because Democrats did it in 2022 in New York. That's not quite what was happening, though. The New York legislature redrew its district maps in the year 2020, and they were highly partisan and gerrymandered. Illinois drew its massively gerrymandered district as well. The New York Court of Appeals, which is the Supreme Court in New York, it's kind of weird. In New York, the Supreme Court is not the Supreme Court. The Court of Appeals is the Supreme Court. They threw out the maps and imposed their own maps, and the legislature redrew, and they didn't get their maps redrawn until 2022. That's what happened. What Republicans now want you to believe is that their 2025 mid-decade redistricting fight was because of what New York did. I'm sorry, that's not really true. That's just the partisan spin to keep yourself from having to realize you're being ruled by idiots right now. What happened was that the political team at the White House convinced the President of the United States that he should start redrawing lines in the middle of the decade, contrary to the pattern and practice that this country has engaged in. And they decided to start in Texas, and Texas did it. So California responded to Texas. So Ohio responded to California. So Maryland and Virginia responded to Ohio. It was the Republicans who decided to tip the domino over and begin the fall of dominoes. And guess what? Republicans have now lost the fight. The Republicans started the fight. If you are a partisan hack, you can say otherwise, but I try to be an honest person on this radio program and tell you Republicans are the ones who started the fight. You can say, well, Democrats have been partisan, Jeremy. Yes, Republicans have and Democrats have. And when Democrats do it, the media says it's about fairness. When Republicans do it, the media says it's terrible. Yes, we all know how the media operates in this, but that's no excuse to try to deflect from the fact that it was the political team at the White House that brought pressure to bear on Texas, and the Texas Republicans started this mid-decade redistricting fight. And guess what? The Republicans have now lost the fight. The Democrats will now have net more seats because of the mid-decade redistricting fight than they would have otherwise had. They were still going to win the House anyway, but now they're going to win it by a bigger margin thanks to the GOP picking this fight. That's just the reality. You can be mad at me for telling you the truth, but deep down, you know I'm telling you the truth. As well, New York did it in 2022 was no reason for the Republicans to do it in 2025. The New York legislature was responding to a judicial decision, not pressure from the President of the United States. If you ever read The Art of War from Sun Tzu, don't start the fight until you've won it. It's like going to court. You know, when you go to law school, they teach you how you never ask a question in court you don't already know the answer to. You don't start a fight unless you've already known how to win it. It was obvious that if the Republicans started it, the Democrats would engage in it as well. And the Republicans convinced themselves that because the Democrats had boxed themselves in legally, they weren't going to be able to respond. Well, look at that. The Democrats responded. They ignored the Constitution and the laws of their states. They got the voters to agree to make changes to the laws and through voter referendum overrode their constitutions. Did the Republicans not see this coming? They're stupid if they didn't. And apparently they are stupid. And this is the exact same team that is going to run the Republicans into the midterm ground. It was a dumb fight to begin with. And when they started it in Texas, I warned you this was a fight the GOP probably could not win. Now, there are a couple of efforts in play. One is with the Virginia Supreme Court. The Virginia Supreme Court could still stop the referendum. I don't know that they're going to. I wouldn't hang my hat on it that they are. Two, Florida has talked about doing redistricting, but at this point, it would probably be a bad idea. The reason is because Texas redistricted and took very strongly safe Republican districts and made them weaker Republican districts. They're still pretty strong. If Florida redistricts, they're going to take a number of Republican districts, and in a wave year for the Democrats, which this could be, those safe Republican seats are going to get destroyed. That's the problem in Florida, is the margin of victory in the seats. The Indiana Republicans refuse to redistrict. It's probably too late for them to do so. If the Supreme Court this week releases the Alito decision, which I don't think they're going to do because I suspect that the dissent is dragging their feet so that the case cannot be released soon. But if the Alito decision, we expect an Alito decision on the Louisiana case about redistricting under the Voting Rights Act comes out and goes the way conservatives expect it to, you could get some southern states to redistrict further. But, for example, in Georgia, the Georgia primary is next month. There's not enough time to do the redistricting. There's not enough time. Georgia, in theory, could redistrict its second congressional district, led by Congressman Sanford, and who I think is going to retire. Anyway, they could turn that. Is he retired? I can't remember. Nonetheless, the second congressional district in Georgia is a swing district that has been held by the Democrats. They could make it slightly less Democrat without wiping out Republicans in other districts. They could do that. The Georgia Republicans, they could pick up one seat there. Alabama could redistrict further and pick up another seat. Louisiana pick up another seat. Possibly Mississippi, possibly Florida as well could pick up one or two more Republican seats. South Carolina could as well. But the clock is running out to be able to do it based on when the primaries are. So you would have to put it off for 2 years to the presidential election. What Republicans should probably do if they're smart is bide their time to 2030 and wait for the redistricting in 2030. because the redistricting in 2030 is going to overwhelm the Democrats. Given the deportations of illegal aliens from blue states and the population shift towards southern red states, the Democrats are in for a bad census in 2030. Everyone largely agrees the 2020 census was screwed up. One, the Democrats, when Biden took over, helped screw it up. But two, it had a lot to do with COVID, had a lot to do with people not responding to census takers in 2020. It was a deeply flawed census that undercounted the population of southern states. So even with the existing population of southern states, not just the shift over the last few years to southern states, the Democrats are going to lose more seats. The census shift is going to benefit the Republicans in the Electoral College and in Congress. The question, though, right now is what happens with the Senate, too. Here's the bottom line for the GOP, and you've got to understand this. People really, really hate the Democratic Party. They hate the Democratic Party more than they hate Donald Trump. But a lot of people for the midterms are thinking, you know what? I'm okay with the Democrats taking Congress to hold Donald Trump accountable because the Republicans are not. The Republicans continue to not push back against the president, giving him much of what he wants, even if voters don't like it. And I'm a broken record at this point, y'all, but I stand by it. If Republicans would, they don't have to do it publicly. If Republicans would privately more forcefully push back against the president, he actually would stop some of the stuff he's doing that's hurting them. He would. The president would stop it because he keeps getting pushed back. But no one is brave enough to do it because they're afraid he'll cut them off. People are afraid the president will isolate them. People are afraid the president will exclude them from conversations. People are afraid the president won't be nice to them. And so they don't push back on the president. And as a result, there is no check on the president internally within the GOP. No one wanted to stand up to the president with the mid-decade redistricting and say, this is not a smart fight for us to do. We're going to lose the House anyway. Why make it worse? And this is where we are. I am frustrated. I'm deeply frustrated because I saw this coming when it was started in Texas. I said at the time this was not going to go well for the GOP. If you got my morning show notes today, it is Adam Carlson, who's a pollster, who points out that Republicans are going to gain between 4 and 8 seats in this redistricting fight. But the Democrats now are going to gain between 8 and 10 seats. California, the Democrats are going to see 4 to 5 gains. In Virginia, 3 to 4 gains. In Utah, there's going to be 1 gain. By the way, it turns out Utah may be revisited because one of the judges on the Supreme Court out there seems to have been in a relationship with the lawyer who argued the case for the Democrats. In Texas, Republicans are going to gain 2 to 4 seats. In Ohio, they gain none to 2 seats. In North Carolina, they'll gain a seat. In Missouri, they'll gain a seat. But California, Utah, Virginia, well, Utah could roll it back 1. So you'd be 8 to 9 seats instead of 8 to 10 seats. This is a fight the GOP should have thought about. Now, again, my suspicion, I have a suspicion that the reason the Louisiana case has not come out yet is that the dissent in the Supreme Court is taking their time with their dissent to drag out the clock to the point where Republicans can't push redistricting further. That's my sense of this. I have no inside knowledge. That's my guess. If somehow that case were to drop immediately, some southern states could rush in and redistrict, I do believe. But it's going to be hard. It's going to be real hard. It's a fight. Again, son, you just read The Art of War. Is actually a brilliant little book. My son had to read it in 9th grade. It's actually a really, really smart book by Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Do not start a fight unless you've already won it. It's a lesson here for the Iran fight as well. Before we get to the SPLC, we've got to get to the Iran update. The Iranians have seized 2 tankers this morning and shot at 3 others. The president saying he will extend the ceasefire in large part because the Iranian government is too divided to come up with an idea for how they want to resolve the peace. The Middle Eastern allies are pushing the president to go on and start bombing them again. We started this fight without a real coherent strategy, and now the president is having second thoughts, it seems. The second thought should be to go in and bomb them more thoroughly. This fight in Virginia didn't have to be fought, but it got started in Texas when Republicans lost Virginia there, and it went. Now, they barely lost, and that's good because it keeps the grievance alive in Virginia. They barely lost the fight in Virginia. It will keep people festering over this, particularly in rural and suburban Virginia, that they're now going to be governed by the progressive elite. The progressives who say they support the working class actually just put a bunch of wealthy progressives from the Washington, D.C. suburbs in charge of rural Virginia. There is a silver bullet campaign now to get Northern Virginia drawn back into Washington, D.C. This is a nonsensical campaign to give people false hope. It's not going to happen. There's not a lot of sense in dwelling on the fact that the president is being asked by executive order to redraw Virginia and give back the northern portion of Virginia to D.C. It's not going to happen by an executive order. A Judge Boasberg probably would enjoin it, and it would take forever for the Supreme Court to get to it, and they wouldn't give the president the case. It's been too long. Latches. It's been too long. The equitable doctrine of latches, I suspect the Supreme Court would just pull that out of their rear end and say, no, it's taking you too long. This is moot now. You haven't done it. It's gone back to the 1800s. Sorry, we're not going to revisit this. It's a dumb idea. Just like doing mid-decade redistricting in Texas without a coherent plan to get all of the Republican states on board doing it, because they never did. And now the Republicans have lost the fight they themselves started. Welcome back. It is Eric Erickson. Glad to have you with me. And as the voice says, 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, would be very happy to have you. We've got a lot more to talk about on the show, including the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is a rather big deal. But first, I gotta play you this audio. This is the energy chief for the European Union.
On the grids package, the biggest bottleneck, as I see it, potentially in the green transition in Europe, is that if we don't have the transmission. I mean, we do deploy every year record numbers of new renewables. The year before last, it was 78 gigawatts. Last year, we haven't got the numbers yet, but I expect it to be close to 90. This year, we'll probably break records again. This is all good, and this is one of the reasons why we're better situated at dealing with this crisis than we were in 22.
You got that? He thinks that because of their green policies, they can deal with this energy crisis better from the Iran thing. They're about out of jet fuel, and they're importing more natural gas from Russia. That's how they're actually dealing with it. Just fools. Goodness. Old Glory Bank is my bank. They would love to be your bank. They are a bank that was started by conservatives for conservatives who at the time were worried about debanking trends as progressives pressured banks to cut off banking for conservative organizations, businesses, and individuals. It affected Melania Trump. It's affected, I believe, Barron Trump and others as their bank accounts were targeted by progressive activists. You and certain banks can't use your debit card to buy things that you're legally, freely allowed to buy because they didn't want you, for example, buying a gun with your debit card. Old Glory Bank came out of that. With Trump in charge now, you don't have to worry about debanking trends. However, you still got to deal with banks out there that are woke, and Old Glory Bank is definitely not woke. They believe in freedom. They support veterans, active duty military, first responders. They're very hands-on with businesses. They've got checking accounts, savings accounts. I've got a checking and savings account. They got premium interest-bearing accounts. They've got CDs. They do mortgages. Check them out at oldglorybank.com/Eric, oldglorybank.com/ERICK, oldglorybank.com/Eric, member FDIC, equal housing lender, terms and conditions apply. So I ordered Jimmy John's for lunch today. It showed up right as the show was starting, like literally a minute before the show started. I've had to let it fumigate because it smells like weed, as did the driver who drove it over. No wonder he was so slow. So my food is sitting here right in front of me, and I am not going to eat while I'm on radio. So who knows? What a day. I woke up this morning at 4 o'clock to a strange sound outside my house. It sounded like a growling. Our air conditioner broke. One of those days, I woke up and realized that I was comfortable when no one else in the house was, because I had my perfectly snug mattress topper, and it cooled me down as others in the house. And, it was like 55 outside, and I was like, why is the upstairs in our house like 70 some odd degrees when it's because the air conditioner? I'm assuming it just was out. There's coolant or problem. I hope the whole thing doesn't have to be replaced. Good Lord. That would be bad. But the perfectly snug mattress topper kept me snug last night while everybody else was miserable, kept me cool. It's like an air conditioner for your bed. It circulates cool air. It can also heat up. In the last few weeks, I've been using the mattress topper, the heat function, to relax my back from hurting some muscles doing deadlifts. But my form was great. It just, anyway. But the perfectly snug mattress topper works fantastic. It's actually really reasonably priced. You can go to perfectlysnug.com/Eric, perfectlysnug.com/ERICK. Get up to $280 off. Oprah Winfrey just gave them an award. She loves them. I love it. It actually is fantastic. You can control it with your phone, and it can automatically adjust through the night to get warmer or cooler as you want it. And you just wake up refreshed the next day. Perfectlysnug.com/Eric. I really do like this thing. They sent one to me, and I said, I want to advertise for you. And I'm glad I did, because it's worth it. You'll get a great night's sleep. Perfectlysnug.com/Eric. I will get to the SPLC. I promise. It is a huge story. I want to give it its due. I want to allow it to breathe. But we've got to bring you up to speed first on Iran. The President of the United States has extended the ceasefire in Iran. And the reason the President has extended the ceasefire in Iran, he says, is because the government is very badly divided. The government of the United States is waiting for the government of Iran to get its act together. The problem, and I think inside Iran, they probably, they know this, and we need to come to terms with this, is that the military is basically in charge of Iran at this point. The political class in Iran is living in fear of the military class. In fact, there are some people who have speculated, the Speaker of the House in Iran keeps coming out with these extremist statements. And there are a number of people inside Iran and outside Iran who are looking at this and saying, I think he's saying this because he's scared of getting axed by the military. This is the latest from the Wall Street Journal. Iran attacked 3 ships in the Strait of Hormuz and escorted 2 of them to Iranian waters as tensions flared. Mediators scrambled to get the diplomatic process back on track, including arranging a possible meeting between Iran and the U.S. as soon as Friday. President Trump will give Iran a few days to offer a peace plan. Trump extended the ceasefire Tuesday after J.D. Vance canceled plans to travel to Iran. The U.S. is expected to maintain economic pressure on Iran, according to U.S. officials, including sanctions, a blockade of Iranian ports, and an effort to seize Iran-linked ships and waters around the world. A senior Iranian advisor said the U.S. naval blockade is no different than bombing and will be met with a military response. An Iranian gunboat fired on a container ship northeast of Oman and a second vessel off the coast of Iran. The situation is becoming more volatile over there. The Iranian military being in charge of the situation is they don't want a peace deal. They really think they've won. I said this yesterday, and I need to reemphasize this to you today. The Iranian military leaders believe Iran has won this fight with Iran because the American press corps tells them they have. I need you to understand that's what's happening here. The Iranian military itself on Iranian TV is citing U.S. press corps headlines saying Donald Trump has lost. And that is their justification for continuing. The American media has bet against the United States, actively rooted against the United States, and is propagandizing for the nation of Iran. They have no incentive to do anything else. This is Rebecca Hendricks talking about the implications, however, for China.
Well, this is really interesting because keep in mind that Iran is essentially a partner of the Chinese Communist Party, and so was Maduro-controlled Venezuela. If you take Venezuelan oil, combine it with Iranian oil export, that's about 18% of Chinese oil imports, of what China imports. So it really puts the squeeze on China if you're blocking that Iranian oil. And of course, the United States has already planted the American flag in Venezuela, and we're working with this interim government since we snatched Maduro essentially from his bed in Venezuela. So this is putting the squeeze on China. China finally essentially piped up and said, okay, we got to get the strait opened up. But notably, and as President Trump has noted, China's not willing to actually push the Iranians to stop their attacks on the United States. In fact, we do have some reported evidence that China is trying to sneak in some potential dual-capable parts to help the IRGC continue the fight.
Yes, the Chinese are trying to fund the Iranian military operation and provide them parts, chemicals, and supplies. We're hurting the Chinese oil capacity, which I think is just fantastic. Now, you should know that Dow is up over 300 points. S&P's up. NASDAQ's up almost 300 points. Oil prices are up as well, though. Brent crude is up over $100 again. Oil in the U.S., West Texas is at $93. Natural gas has gone up slightly, but barely. The Brent oil has gone up over $100 because of the seizure of these tankers. The IRGC saying that they were transiting the strait without authorization. They strayed too close to Iran for the United States to protect them. By the way, remember the Indian ship the other day that was fired upon by the IRGC? It turns out that they were a victim of a crypto scam. Now, this has not gotten a lot of media attention. I have verified this is a true story. The Indian oil tanker flowing through the Strait of Hormuz thought they paid the Iranians their cryptocurrency fee that the Iranians were demanding. They did not pay the Iranians the fee. They paid scammers the fee who took the money. And when the Indian tanker was fired upon by the Iranian government, it began yelling at the Iranians that we paid you as you instructed, except the Iranians had no instructions and had been given no instructions and did not instruct. They fell for the scam, y'all. They fell for the scam. Fun things. Wow. Now, nonetheless, we've got to move on here. What's going to happen next? The president seems to think he can get some sort of peace deal out of Iran. I don't think he can get a peace deal out of Iran. And I don't think he can get a peace deal out of Iran because the Iranians are believing the American press corps that Donald Trump is losing. If the Iranians believe the American press corps that they're winning, there's no reason for them to offer a solution to give peace. You should also know that the president is firing back on a Wall Street Journal editorial. Elliot Kaufman wrote a piece in the Wall Street Journal. The Iranians take Trump for a sucker. How many times will President Trump pay Iran for the same real estate? Twice he's announced the opening of the Strait of Hormuz, and twice he's given up U.S. leverage in exchange, yet the strait remains closed. On April 7th, Mr. Trump announced a 2-week ceasefire subject to the Islamic Republic of Iran agreed to a complete, immediate, and safe opening of the Strait of Hormuz. This implied Iran hadn't quite agreed to it yet, and two sources familiar with negotiations say gaps remain. But Iran's foreign minister eased concerns, quote, for a period of 2 weeks, he wrote that evening. Safe passage through the strait would be possible within certain limits. The next morning, President Trump was joyous, a big day for world peace. Iran wants it to happen. They've had enough. We'll be loading up with supplies of all kinds. When the Journal's editorial board warned against declaring premature victory, the president was dismissive. Actually, it is a victory. There's nothing premature about it, he wrote on April 9th. But the oil didn't flow. Tanker traffic declined even further. Iran's regime insisted on a new condition. Israel would have to stop attacking Hezbollah. That wasn't part of the deal. April 10th and 11th, negotiations followed in Pakistan, and the U.S. walked away when Iran resisted key nuclear concessions. Iran's foreign minister again acknowledged what was agreed after ceasefire with Lebanon and said the passage for all commercial vessels would be open. But on Saturday, Iran's military said the straits were closed. Mr. Trump first suspended attacks on Iran, then on Hezbollah. Iran now pressed him to give up U.S. economic leverage. Sometimes diplomacy can lock in military gains. This time, it's been set up to give them away. That was Elliot Kaufman. The president has now responded in a lengthy post on Truth Social, declaring Iran's entire navy at the bottom of the sea, their air force gone, and their anti-aircraft and radar wiped out. He touted June strikes on their nuclear labs and storage areas, which he said were obliterated, and celebrated the death of Qasem Soleimani, and noted the Strait of Hormuz is blockaded and totally controlled by the U.S., with no ships allowed to go to Iranian ports. He hit back at Elliot Kaufman, calling him an idiot, and said the entire publication had lost its way after saying that the Iranians took Trump for a sucker. The problem is, Mr. President, you're not a sucker, but they are taking you for one because of the coverage of the American press corps, and the Iranians are convinced they've won this fight. And the only way to show them they haven't won the fight is to go blow them up. It's time to bomb Iran again. The Iranians have believed their own press. Fatal mistake in politics, fatal mistake in military action. Don't believe your press. They've believed the press. So it's time to bomb them, time to blow them up. It's time to take action against Iran, Mr. President. Every day that goes by that we're not blowing up Iran, they have a potential to rearm from the Russians and the Chinese. The Saudis and the Emiratis are tired of Iran bullying with control at the Strait of Hormuz. They want the Iranian regime gone. The Israelis prefer the Iranian regime gone. Blow up the power plants, blow up the bridges, and work on collapsing the regime. We don't have to send our soldiers in. Blow up the regime. We need to do it. We have this tiger by its tail. We have not declawed or defanged it. It will maul us to death. Randomly, have y'all seen the video of the circus? There was a circus somewhere in this country. My wife sent me the video of it. There was a big cat trainer. It was a woman in the circus with 3 Bengal tigers. The cage collapsed. The tigers ran into the audience at the circus. No one was apparently mauled to death by those tigers because they were not Iranians. It's a wild video, by the way. It really was a wild video. And so it was a comedian on Instagram who pointed it out, and he says, y'all notice all the black people got up and ran. Those white people were sitting there. There's some white woman in the crowd, you know it and I know it, going, here, kitty, kitty, kitty. Not wrong. Not wrong. The cat ladies of America where they say, oh, I can take home a new kitty. I immediately thought that would be my daughter. She's going to be a cat lady, and now she's texted me. She's listened to me say, that would be me. Yep, I knew it would be my kid. Be the one, oh, I can take this kitty home. You can't take the Iranian tiger home. You got to kill it. And the president of the United States needs to understand that he's not going to get a deal so long as the American media and people like Chris Murphy are out there telling the Iranians stand strong against us. We got to go in there and we got to wipe them out. We don't have to wipe out the civilization. As the president said, his tweets have made things worse for him. Just the Iranian regime. I'm telling you, I'm still a big believer. Let's just drop loaded guns across the country and arm the people to turn against the government. The chaos, yep, there would be absolute chaos. Yep, there would be a lot of people who would die in the process. I know, I get that. But the Iranian regime stands strong because no one in the country can fire back against it. You let people fire back against that regime and make it fear for its life, things will change. We got to do something. It is time for the United States to go back into Iran and be ruthless. We have not been ruthless. Contrary to what you may hear in the press corps, the president has not been ruthless. If anything, he's pulled his punches. He should have gone for the bridges and the power plants on day one, and he didn't because he wanted to be a nice guy to the Iranians and hopefully help them set themselves up to be able to overthrow the regime. They haven't done so now. So now it's time to go back in and be ruthless. Mr. President, I understand you pulled your punches in Iran. You did. You took out military capacity, but you actually tried not to be destructive. It's time now, Mr. President, to be as destructive as possible to the Iranians and wipe them out. It's time to wipe out the Iranian regime by bombing them to smithereens, and then the Iranian people can take back their country. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. This hour of the program sponsored by Van Allen Golf, ALLEN, vanallengolf.com. Check them out on Instagram at Van Allen Golf. You can text golf to 33777, makers of fine golf equipment. I love these guys. They're really, really good. Their putter's phenomenal. Now, let me jump over. I got time real quick. No, yeah. JD, I want to get your call real quick. Welcome. How are you?
I'm fine, Eric. Thank you. Since Trump has cut off Iran's oil revenues, don't you think that he's just waiting until they go bankrupt? They have to surrender. When they run out of money, what have they got? I just think he's playing that game so he does not have to send in ground forces.
To a degree, that is part of the strategy. Is within the next day or two, the oil reservoirs at Kharg Island are going to be full, and they're not going to be able to get their oil out. And that's about the only way they're funding their economy right now. And the result is that the Iranians are going to have to shut down their oil wells, and that funds their economy. There is a catch, however. The Russians and the Chinese are believed to be floating money to Iran via cryptocurrency exchanges to keep themselves going. And if they want Iran to stay in the fight, they can fund them through cryptocurrency that Iran can then cash out. So it's not as easy as let's just shut down their oil and we're going to completely wipe them out. That's the public spin, but privately, if China and Russia both send them money and other allies send them money, they can stay in the game. That's part of the problem. I gotta just say we need to not just be thinking about bankrupting them, although that would be great. We've got to wipe out their capacity to wage war. We do. And we don't have to send troops to Iran to do that. We don't have to. We can just bomb them more aggressively, more sustained. And again, we pulled our punches. We could have hit them harder, and the president chose not to. Now all that discretion is going out of the window. By the way, we have begun using Ukrainian counter-drone technology. We have embraced a deal with Ukraine, which is also good. Bring them into the fight. They know how to fight the Iranian drones. Now, my friends, I need to tell you about Incogni. I told you yesterday over 600 takedown notices have been sent by Incogni to websites selling my personal data. My number of daily scam calls trying to give me loans and stuff has gone to zero. Email solicitation have gone down. Junk mail has gone down. They protect my privacy. They'll do the same for you. Incogni.com/Eric, E-R-I-C-K. Incogni is spelled I-N-C-O-G. N-I. It's like it sounds. N-I-N, cog, C-O-G, ni, N-I. Incogni.com/Eric. Save up to 60% with Incogni. What they do is they go online to the data brokers who sell your private information to telemarketers, scammers, fraudsters, and others. Even insurance companies want your data. And Incogni sends takedown notices, and those companies are legally required to take down their notice. And Incogni found like 27 different companies took my information down, and within a week had it back up. Incogni followed up with them, sent them another takedown notice, and has kept following up. They're really good at this. Incogni.com/Eric. Incogni.com/Eric.